They got Tbull here. Today we got to look at the lightning for you. We got Vine, Bay, Sims, slot 3. We got the new perk, radio locator on there. Plus it increases ship survivability a bit there. There's the ship build. We haven't covered the lightning lately. It's always been in the conversation for best tier 7 destroyer. I think it was all at launch, and no, we only have 8v8 in this game for some reason. But you know, the lack of the radio locator on here, the little half moon that you'll see on the screen when the game starts that tells you the rough direction of the closest ship. That was always kind of an inherent negative, a disadvantage built into the ship's build. So now that all the destroyer builds in the game have access to that perk, the ship should see more success. Now, that perk helps out most when dealing with the enemy destroyers, either trying to blind torp them or understanding, you know, where they might be coming from, if they're trying to sneak up on you, whatever the case may be. That's generally going to be the best use for it. Now, the lightning does not excel in destroyer v destroyer fights. In terms of HP, we beat the Kagero, we beat the Udachi, and the list ends there at tier 7. So we're not really set up for destroyer v destroyer fights. Yes, we do have a smoke sonar combo, but the sonar is not nearly as effective. It's just shy of a full kilometer shorter than the German sonar, which is kind of dominant in the destroyers. So you can use that sonar, of course. I prefer to use it more defensively. I'm not going to usually be pushing in aggressively on an enemy destroyer, then trying to deploy that smoke sonar. Number one, the smoke only lasts for about a minute or whatever it is, and that's not always enough time to execute a smoke v sonar attack. And because we only have a 3.5 surface detection range or whatever it is on these, sonar is not nearly as effective. So you got to get a lot closer to the enemy. Anytime you got to get closer to the enemy, you're putting yourself in more danger. So I don't usually hunt out destroyers with the sonar if they want to push into me aggressively. Potentially we could use it, but that's not usually what I'm looking for. I find the lightning tends to be do the best in a support role, and that means being near your team, yes, but also kind of keeping an eye on the map and making sure that the guys that are supporting you, the guys that are behind you, they have lines of sight on these guys. Because basically, the way you play the lightning, we'll see it. I think we use 5 smokes this game. Most games, assuming you go the distance, you want to use 5 or 6 smokes. That's kind of a key to the playstyle. But as long as we have teammates, more durable teammates like battleships, potentially cruisers that are likely to be able to spot for you for the duration of that smoke, then we can go ahead and pop that. We can chime in with the guns, either try and cycle the damage con when we have a torpedo strike coming in, as we do here on the Turpets, or if we need to support a ship that maybe one of our teammates is fighting, we can chime in there, maybe get 5-10k damage. Smoke dissipates quickly, we move on, and then shortly thereafter we got another smoke ready to go. So you got a lot of versatility, you got a lot of options with this thing. You just don't want to be getting into these close range 1v1 destroyer fights, because you're usually not going to win those. That's kind of the lightning's main drawback here. Here we got a broadside, Turpets coming in high. We got torp, 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 torp. We got fires on there. All those torps with all the floods finally prompt him to use the damage con, but the Conqueror finishes him off there. So pretty effective there. Of course, whenever you're in a destroyer, you'd prefer to be torping towards the side. So we were kind of using our mobility and our, we don't have great mobility in the lightning, but we're using the ship's mobility and the concealment, trying to get access to these broadsides. Long reload time on these British destroyers. You can mitigate that using tier wit. You can enhance the torpedo reload with certain aspects of the build. It just isn't how I have this thing set up. So the torpedoes are nice on these, but they're not really the main thing. You got a long reload. You can individually fire these things, creating whatever spread you want, and I think we'll see one kind of single-fired torp tube launch later. But usually I find, especially if we're using torpedoes in a zoning fashion, or if we're just trying to strike broadside ships, using these things as a normal, what the game would consider quote-unquote widespread, but more of a normal spread. I find that usually to be my preferred launch, but you got to understand at long range these things do wind up spreading out a little bit. So here's another example here. We're checking the map. We see the battleship Conqueror to the southeast. He's going to have a prolonged line of sight on the Iowa. We drop the smoke, we chime in with the guns, we get some fire, we get some damage. Now we got to check how our detection is. 5.2. He's 5.6. We need to get out of here. This is a very common mistake. Sometimes even I'll make it, but a lot of destroyer players will make it. You let these ships get too close to you. And what would that entail in this situation? Well, let's say the light or the Iowa gets in 5.2 kilometers of us. Our smoke dissipates, and then we're just sitting there waiting, hoping to gun this thing down. We're hoping to gun down 30, 40K in the matter of 30 seconds. Not going to happen. If he's within our detection range, that smoke goes away. Now we're kind of permanently spotted. We got to figure out a way to get out of there. Easier said than done in a lot of cases. So you got to kind of play as though the smoke's not there when we're watching these ships rush into us. And if they're closing in on our detection range anyways, and this is useful for all destroyers, but especially these British destroyers where the smoke just up and takes off very quickly, very rapidly. You got to be on the move. You got to be out of there. You got to be outside of that detection range ahead of time. Okay, so don't sit in the smoke thinking to yourself, this guy can't see me. There's nothing he can do, because that's a temporary state of mind, the temporary state of being. What's going to change is the fact that you're not going to have that smoke cover, and if he's too close, then you're dead. You're not going to survive that. Wichita, trying the tried and true method of losing games on two brothers here. I've seen this strategy hundreds and hundreds of times, probably 500 times. I've seen it work maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. However often it isn't very often. What you have to do, actually what you have to do is nothing. Okay, you have to make the play. You have to sail up the gut, and then you have to hope that everyone on the opposite team is so zoomed in on the Hubble telescope. They don't know what the map is. They're not paying attention at all. And you just get on the base and you capture the base without anyone being none the wiser. Okay, now if you're in a game with me, you're trying to do this, I'm going to be pinging the snot out of you. My team's going to get annoyed. They might even look at the map at that point in time, say, what's all this fussing about? Oh, look at that. There's a cruiser on the base. Why don't we shoot him? Boom, he's dead. All right, so that play doesn't work. It doesn't work if you're in a 3-man division. It doesn't work, if you're in a 3-man division with really good players, you might pull it off. You watching, you're probably, in most situations, you're not going to make that play work, okay? You're rolling the dice saying the enemy team is so bad that they're not even going to be bothering to try and win the game, which is true often enough, I will give you that, but it's not a reliable play to be making. It's not a good way to win the game reliably. Iowa, we got some torps in on him. Here, go ahead and pop the smoke. Once again, every time we do this, unless we're using the smoke in a defensive manner, we want to be checking the map, verifying, okay, if I drop the smoke here, and you're not going to be spreading it out a lot. It's a very quick firing smoke. But, just check. If I drop the smoke here, is the guy behind me still going to have a line of sight on this guy? If so, it's a good position. Go ahead and get that damage for a minute. So we managed to get the Iowa there with some torps and the fire starters, the guns here. Bismarck coming in. We got the high caliber. We got some more fires. All good. Unfortunately, our smoke runs out of here. You got to be keeping an eye on that smoke countdown icon there. And we're trying to gun forward here, trying to use that dying smoke there to block the line of sight just long enough to disengage. Doesn't work. So now we angle against the Bismarck. We basically sail directly away from him. But taking a little bit of a risk here, getting in position to use these torps. But we did drop spot him, and we were right on the edge of our detection there. Got out of there. Bismarck should know that the torps are probably coming, but none of these battleships over here really seem that inclined to dodge much in this game. We fire one spread here, and then we're just kind of doing, randomized spreads. I don't know if this is that good of a spread or not. Usually I'm going to be using those single fire torps in a couple of situations. So if I'm getting rushed, we got like a point blank situation where it's going to be very hard for them to dodge. Or if I know the guy hasn't changed his course or his speed for multiple minutes, then you can start to stack those torps on there. But if they're making any sort of movements and you're trying to create a really tight spread with the single fire torps, odds are pretty good that you're going to miss. So I use that single tube sparingly, but you do want to look for opportunities to use it. There I just wanted to fire one spread, and then I wanted to fire some torps kind of on different positions around that spread to account for the fact that he may slow down, he might turn a little bit. All we really needed was one torp hit or whatever. Now we got 150k damage here, and our team's pushing into the base. We got the twist and track. We can tell where the carry is going to go, but this game, for the remainder, it's just going to be chasing down the carry. So the game effectively is over. We got our team moving into the base, but the keys of the Lightning, again, try and stay with your team, try and play around them, making sure that they can spot for you intermittently. If they're not in positions to spot for you and you want to drop the smoke, but you're like, well, I'm not getting the spotting, you're the destroyer, still your job to spot. So we're looking for opportunities where we can utilize our teammates to spot for us. Then we'll get that quick burst of damage using the smoke, using the HE, maybe using the torps. But our role, first and foremost, is the spotter. So how we're going to be approaching this is always, hoping that our team might have opportunities to spot for us. But if that doesn't happen to be the case, then we just have to go back to our standard roles. So that's kind of the key to the Lightning. Once again, don't really try and get into 1v1 fights with like a Fletcher, with a Tashkent, or, your Fantask or anything like that. You're probably going to have trouble in those situations unless you're really using your consumables at a high level there. Two brothers, don't go up the gut unless you want to lose the game. And always be looking to go back. You could see here we had 3 battleships. We got the destroyers. Dream scenario over here. There's no destroyer to counter us. So we could just torp for the duration of the game, and that's largely what we did. But when we saw the Wichita go back, or try to go up the gut, we did go back to hopefully help reset him, hopefully help kill him, because we do not ever want to trust our random teammates on 2 brothers. Again, the map awareness in this game is not great. If you want to become a good player, focus on the map, focus on checking the map often, and play the positional game. This game is much more about position than it is about, raw aiming or whatever it is like that. So, be that as it may, if you got that awareness, you always have to be thinking in capture the base mode. I'm probably going to have to go back and reset any bases because a lot of times I can't rely on my teammates to do that. Anyway, we do wind up getting the carrier, but he doesn't die. We just get him with like 3-4k more damage. So maybe we'll cut this one here. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We got lots of World of Warships coming all the time for you. Questions, comments, leave them below. Love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.